My parents loved me, or at least, that's what they told the world. To me, though, it never felt like love. It felt like being forgotten. A detail, an accessory to their empire. See, my parents weren't just mom and dad. They were entrepreneurs, influencers, and eventually something stranger. When I was just a toddler, they started building their lifestyle brand. At first, it was powders and mixes, cereals, soups, dehydrated meals. Our kitchen looked more like a lab than a home. I remember lying in the dust of powdered soup on the floor, spreading my arms wide like an angel. Blondie, their third partner, thought it was adorable. She filmed me and posted it online. 100,000 strangers thought I was cute, and overnight, my parents' dream caught fire. From there, their empire only grew. Breakfast cereal, food porn that went viral. Soup mixes that sold out faster than they could package them. Then furniture. Mattresses. Bedding. A whole lifestyle brand with my parents and Blondie at the center. They became celebrities in their own way. And me? I became invisible. Most days I flew under the radar at home and at school. No one teased me. No one bullied me. But no one really saw me either. Not in my sailor suit, with plastic boat-shaped buttons. Not in my knee socks. Not even in my sailor hat, which I ripped off the second I was dropped at school. The other kids ignored me. And honestly, that felt easier than being noticed for the wrong reasons. But the truth is, being ignored by kids was nothing compared to being ignored by your own parents. For them, I was a piece of furniture.
Alályhívtak.
A cute prop for the occasional post. A baby they forgot had a real name. My name. When Blondie and my parents weren't filming, designing, or posting, they were experimenting. They needed someone to raise me, someone to keep me out of their way. That's when the nanny came, Susan. My parents called her Rita because she had fiery red hair, like Rita Hayworth. They didn't care about her name, just like they didn't care about mine. But Susan, she saw me. One morning on the veranda, I asked her, "Do you know my name?" She smiled politely and said, "Of course. Your parents told me it's baby." I shook my head.
No.
They've forgotten. My name is Charlie. They gave it to me, but they don't remember anymore. Susan just stared at me, as if I had told her the sun was purple. She didn't understand how parents could forget their own child's name. But I knew. They didn't forget, they just didn't care. That night, when Mom whispered, "Baby, how do you like your new bed?" and Blondie cooed over how precious I looked sleeping, I realized something. I wasn't their child. I was their product. And one day, I would show them what happens when you treat your child like an accessory. I used to wonder what it felt like to be seen. Not by strangers online, not by fans scrolling through curated breakfasts or picture-perfect bedsheets, but truly seen by the people who were supposed to love me. By now, I knew the truth. My parents and Blondie didn't really see me at all. They had millions of followers. They had a brand worth more than some small countries. They had adoring fans, contracts, late-night talk show appearances. What they didn't have was me. I was the forgotten piece. The accessory. The baby. Even my birthdays were background noise. That summer, when the cameras stopped rolling for a season and my parents sat around the dining table for once, I thought maybe, just maybe, I'd matter. They talked about Ibiza, about taking the brand international, about how the new line of chairs would launch by Christmas. Not once did they look at me. Not once did they ask what I wanted. So, I asked the question myself. Am I going too? The silence was louder than any answer. They didn't hear me.
Or maybe they chose not to.
But Susan, my nanny, she heard. She always did. She leaned in with her soft, steady voice and said, "Charlie, would you like some fruit salad?" The room froze. For a moment, I felt everyone's eyes on me. My mother's, my father's, Blondie's. They all looked at me like they'd just remembered I existed. Like the name Charlie was foreign, shocking, inconvenient. I turned red. They turned red. The moment passed, and I was baby again. That was the night I decided something had to change. A week later, Susan was gone. They told me she'd finished her contract, and it was time for me to move on to preschool. I didn't get to say goodbye. I felt lonelier than ever. But loneliness has a strange way of sharpening your thoughts. It was around then that I met Jimmy. Jimmy was nothing like me. Loud, messy, always covered in dirt. His parents loved him in a way mine never did. They clapped for him when he brought home papers with crooked letters. They called him by his name, even when they scolded him. He belonged. Jimmy's dad worked in pest control, and Jimmy loved telling stories about it. One day, for show and tell, he brought in a canning jar with a spider inside. A brown recluse. Deadly, he whispered with pride, like he'd captured a dragon. That night, I couldn't stop thinking about it. Our house was so big, with gardens, sheds, and dark corners. I'd seen spiders before, lurking near the orangery, weaving webs in the shadows. I wondered if I could find one.
So I did.
By the gardener's shed, I crouched down low and spotted the first. Long legs, brown body, quick and sharp. I slipped it carefully into a jar. My heart pounded, but not with fear, with something else.
Excitement.
I found another, and another. By the end of the week, I had 3 jars, each with a brown recluse spider crawling inside. I fed them scraps of insects I caught in the garden. I watched them move, patient and quiet, waiting in their glass prisons. Waiting just like me. It was a Saturday when the idea became more than a thought. The air smelled of decaying leaves, and the sunlight made everything feel golden.
Perfect.
My parents were off filming somewhere, selling the world another version of themselves. Blondie laughed on cue. Dad played charming. Mom played poised. And I prepared. With my knapsack strapped tight, the jars clinking softly inside, I crept into their bedroom suite. It was immaculate, spotless white bedding, polished furniture, everything curated for the next post. Blondie had an eye for detail. She always noticed imperfections, which meant I had to be flawless. One by one, I unscrewed the lids. I tilted the jars, letting my little friends crawl out free at last. Their tiny legs tapped across the sheets, vanishing into folds of fabric, burrowing deep into pillows and comforters. I tucked the blankets neatly back under the pillows, smoothing them until they looked untouched.
Perfect.
Instagram ready. My heart hammered, but I felt calm.
Too calm.
That night, I slept deeper than I had in months. The next morning, the house felt different. Quiet. The housekeeper found me at breakfast. Her face was pale, her hands trembling. "Your mama, papa, and Blondie aren't feeling well," she said. "I've packed a bag for you. You'll stay with your grandparents while they rest." I widened my eyes, feigning innocence. "Are they all right?" She forced a smile. "I'm sure they'll be fine. They just need rest. No one works harder than they do." I crossed my fingers beneath the table. "Okay, I'll be ready." I put on the sailor's suit they loved so much. The one that made me look like a child, not the person I was becoming. I brushed my hair, tied my shoes, and went downstairs. My grandparents were waiting. Grandma scooped me up with a laugh. Grandpa frowned at my outfit. "Ursula," he said, "can't we get this boy some proper clothes? He looks ridiculous." Grandma giggled.
Of course we can.
"Maybe we'll burn these ones and make s'mores over the fire." For the first time in years, I laughed. Really laughed.
They took me home with them.
And for the first time in forever, I felt safe. Days passed. My parents didn't call. Blondie didn't post. Their accounts went silent, a shocking void in the endless feed. The world started to whisper. Where had they gone? What happened to the brand? Then the call came. My parents and Blondie had never left their bed. They hadn't sought help. They believed their love, their strange, tangled love, would carry them through. But love doesn't cure venom. By the time anyone found them, it was too late. The funerals were a spectacle. Cameras everywhere. Reporters whispering about the tragic loss of 3 pioneers. Headlines screamed across the internet. "Baby Bear inherits Goldilocks and the 3 Bears empire." That's what they called it. Goldilocks and the 3 Bears. Their little nickname for themselves, now a headline carved in stone. I stood there in a tailored suit, holding my grandparents' hands as the caskets were lowered into the ground. The cameras zoomed in on my face, searching for tears, searching for innocence. All I gave them was silence. Because the truth is, I wasn't mourning. I was free. The world would never know. They'd never suspect the quiet child in the sailor suit, the one they called baby, had orchestrated it all. The brand lived on, but under new hands, my grandparents. They gave me clothes that fit, food that tasted like home, and love that didn't need an audience. And yet, sometimes when I closed my eyes at night, I thought about the spiders, about how patient they were, how silent, how small. No one ever suspects the small things. Not the spiders. Not the child. And that's why I won.